All right, everyone, I'm here with a very special guest today, my very first guest of 2024. I'm joined with Caitlyn Miller today. How are you, Caitlyn?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's probably a lot better where you are than where I am. It's like 28 degrees and just finished
Oh
snow
God.
raining over here.
Oh, it's cooler today in Florida, but it's probably like 60 right now.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. So, for those that don't know you or don't follow you, you recently moved down to Florida
Yes.
from where were you from the Northeast or?
Yeah, so I moved from New Hampshire. So I'm
Okay.
used to your weather, girl.
Yeah.
Much different here though. The winters are beautiful.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember your pictures of you like bundled up and your like nose all red and like your
Oh my God.
head warmer on when you were running. And when you
Night
said
and
you were
day.
moving to Florida, I was like, you know what? Good for her. She needs it.
I know it's much different, but it's been nice. The summers are very hot though, I
Yeah.
will say.
Yeah. What inspired like what made you move? Was it work related? Was it just I'm sick of running in the cold related?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I wanted to change.
Yeah.
I lived in New Hampshire my whole life, and I'd been to Florida before. I
Right.
loved it here. I wanted to be by the beach, and I just wanted the sunshine. I am such a warm weather girl,
Yeah.
and I was like, why am I living in New Hampshire when I don't need to be?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been amazing for me, for my business.
Yeah. Did you move down here with like any siblings or family or friends, or did you just kind of send it like I'm going out
No,
there?
just me.
Oh my
Literally, all my
gosh.
friends are back home in New Hampshire. I mean, I've
How has
made
that
several friends
been?
here now. But yeah, no, it was a huge move. It was just me.
I'm in that position right now where like I would love to move to Los Angeles, but I'm because I love it out there. I know that like that's where I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be. The idea of leaving like everybody behind is scaring me so much. But I know, like you
Oh
said,
my
it's like,
God,
why
you
am I
should
living
do
here?
it. Do it like you're so young. I know for me, like, you don't have anyone tying you down.
Um,
I don't. It's like, you can always move back.
yeah,
It's not
that's
like you're
true.
ever stuck there. And that was kind of my perspective on it. It's like, yeah, I can go down and hate it. And if I hate it, I can always move back.
Right.
But like you'll never know, right?
Yeah. Have you made friends down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great community here.
Okay.
The running
That's
community
what
is
makes
really
me
great.
nervous. I'm like, how do I make friends?
Yeah, I mean, I also have a roommate, which
Oh, that's
helps
good.
too. So that's just like an automatic like friend that you have. And she's
Yeah.
actually from Florida.
Oh,
So
nice.
she knew some people here, which then I was introduced to as well. But I mean, yeah, of course it's scary moving to a new place, but you'll find your way, girl. You'll love it.
I know I love talking to people like you that have gone and do it or done it because I need all of the positive like reinforcement in my head. And I sit down, I talk to people like you, and I'm like, you're gonna sit in New Jersey, freezing your butt off forever if you don't just bite the bullet and go.
I know, just do it. I mean, you'll never know, right?
That's
Don't
true.
don't ask what if, just go for it.
That is very true. So you mentioned how it's been great for your business down here. I know a little bit about your business, but for those who are listening, what is it that you do and how did this whole thing come about?
Yeah, so I own an activewear company. It's called Exponential Athletics. It's an apparel company. It's made specifically for runners. So we create everything very much specific to like distance running, marathon runners, which is kind of like, my big niche
Yeah.
myself. But yeah, I mean, moving to Florida was just a great change for the brand. I mean, we've really taken off since getting here. I think just, content wise and,
Yeah.
new people we've met. And, the business has really started to take off. But yeah, my undergrad, I was actually a math major. So
Oh, could
I
not be me.
like being a business owner. And I realized like I didn't want to be a teacher. And it was kind of like a little crisis that happened in my life. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Me right now.
And so, I really had to think about it. And then I ended up graduating with my degree. I went back and got my master's in business administration. And
Nice.
then I did that it was like a 1 year accelerated program. And then after I graduated with that, I started Exponential Athletics in January of 2022.
Wow. Wow. So it's only been like what, 2 years,
Yeah,
right?
it's
That's
crazy.
crazy. So what goes in your mind when you're creating new pieces? Because I had on Sammy Bossert a few weeks ago who owns Petula, but Petula is very lifestyle and like
Mhm.
weightlifting stuff, and yours is very running specific. So when you're like creating a new piece or a new line, what are the first things that you take into consideration?
Yeah, I mean, so I design everything myself.
Cool.
Literally since day one, I was designing everything myself. And I think just coming like being a runner myself, I always was so annoyed with my running apparel. And I literally made a list of things like, this is what my apparel needs to have. And I have like a list of 7 things. Like, it needs to be functional. I mean, our big 3 things is functional, flattering, and comfortable. But it's running specific. So things that I had struggled with in the past, like my leggings always falling down on my runs or my shorts falling,
Yeah. Yeah.
not having pockets that were either big enough, properly placed, pockets that, you could literally hold your phone, your keys, your gels, especially as a marathon runner, you have tons of gels and things with
Right.
you. I've run every single one of my marathons since launching my brand
Right.
in Exponential Athletics. I carry my phone in
Awesome.
my pocket. I have my gels in the other, and I do not have to worry about my shorts falling down or my leggings falling down. So that was huge for me. Little things that you don't even think about, like having a front seam, no camel toe when you're running.
Yeah.
Even having like small little things like reflective detailing so that you're seen on the road when you run. So just little things that, I could maybe find it in one pair of leggings, but then that was missing something else. And then these pair of leggings, like, oh, they didn't have a front seam, but they would fall down. So I wanted to create something that was just so niche to runners that had everything. It wasn't like, okay, these are great, but I have to compromise this. I didn't want to compromise anything.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I feel like as far as athleisure clothes, like not running specific, things have come a long way in the years since I started going to the gym. I'm sure you had probably the same pair of Gymshark leggings that everybody had in like 2017, but it's like I haven't seen, and maybe it's just because I'm not in like the running niche, but you're the only one that I've seen taking steps to specifically make like runners more comfortable. 'Cause I grew up and I ran track and stuff, and it was just you bought from like Nike or like New Balance, like the major companies who didn't need to care about like
Yeah,
that much about their products because people were going to buy from their name anyway.
right. And I mean, I say it all the time, but we are changing just the standard of running apparel in the industry. And it's so funny because people, when I started, they're like, oh, you're getting into such a saturated, thing. Like, apparel is so saturated, which is true. But running apparel specific to runners, that is not a saturated industry
No.
at all, in my opinion. It was always something I had trouble with. So if it's so saturated, why can't I find anything else? So that was big for me, because I think, people will tell you like, oh, it's such a saturated industry, but it's really not. It's not saturated with niche pieces made
No.
for runners.
Yeah, and I feel like it's good for you guys because it's like these companies don't come out with running specific stuff like you just said. And I feel like everybody deserves to feel cute. I always say when I feel my best in the gym when I'm wearing like a nice, cute outfit. If I was running a marathon, which will probably never happen, but if I was, I would want to feel my best because it would just put me in the right headspace running. So it's like, and
Absolutely.
it's so important.
Yeah. And I think you should never have to sacrifice functionality for comfort and style, like I could maybe find a pair of shorts that like maybe wouldn't fall down, but like dang, they were ugly
Yeah.
and I did not want to wear them. So it's just,
I like the look of your
why do we
stuff.
always have to sacrifice something?
Yeah. I like the look of your stuff. I feel like growing up and in high school and stuff, like all my running clothes or sneakers or whatever were always like bright colors, just like weird blotches of like bright, like shoes would be like purple and orange. And like it's
Yeah.
nice to see you just have like simple, trendy design. Like nobody needs to be wearing neon orange if they don't want to be.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So what got you into running? Because you grew up playing softball, and I believe you played softball in college, right?
Yeah, I was a softball athlete in college. I didn't like ever compete in actually my senior year in high school. I did cross country for one season, more so just because like my friends convinced me. And I really did enjoy the season. It was great, but like I wasn't really running after that. I went to college. playing softball. So that was like my main focus. And then my senior year, my roommate actually, she convinced me, she's like, you should really do indoor track. Cause I would run just kind of like on the side. She's like, you should do indoor track. Like you'd be so great at it, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it. It's my senior year. So I was a walk-on the team and I loved it. Like I had a really good season. I was able to advance, and that kind of really sparked my love for running and just the competition. And like I feel like doing a marathon was always kind of in the back of my head, but when you're a collegiate athlete, you don't have
Right.
time to train for a marathon as well.
No, no.
So once I graduated, I was like, okay, this is, the one time in my life now finally where I could actually train for a marathon. So I did, and I loved the process. Like I just loved training for something so performance based.
Right.
And yeah, after I did that, it just,
Blossomed
the
from.
rest is history.
Oh my gosh. So what's the best what's the best marathon you've ever ran in, but what's the marathon that you've had the most fun running in? Because
Probably the
have
answer to both of those would be Boston.
you have some crazy times. Like one of my best friends ran the New York City Marathon, and I remember seeing her time, and then I went back to your Instagram bio because I was like, I know she has it, and I was like, I could just never move like that. Like I cannot move that fast or for that long.
I mean, I used to think I couldn't either, to be
Yeah,
honest.
true. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think my most memorable and just the best marathon in Boston, actually this past year, 2023. Boston's just, it's an iconic race, of course, but that was the first marathon that I broke 3 hours. And, to me, that was just always something that just seemed so impossible. And I don't know, it just like, to me, I was like, oh my God, only elite athletes can do
Right.
this. And I set out my goal to do it. And then I ran 2:59:56. So
Wow.
barely made it.
Yeah, but
And
you
I
did,
just
and
feel like
that's
that,
amazing.
yeah, it was like a crazy day, and it was just kind of like an out of body experience.
So what do you do after that feeling? Like you cross the finish line, you go on like your recovery walk, you get handed your medal, whatever. What is going through your mind and what is going through your body at that moment?
Well, first off, you're not really walking. You can barely walk.
Great. Great.
Yeah, I think after Boston, I was just, you're kind of in a daze. You just ran 26.2 miles. You're a little out of it. I do remember though, after Boston, one of my clients actually, she texted me immediately after. And once I crossed the finish line, I didn't actually know if I broke 3 hours because the gun time and like your chip time is different. So I remember coming in, it was past the 3 hour mark. But I knew that that was the gun time, not my chip time. So like your chip time is
Right.
when
Right.
you cross
Right.
the actual start line, because there's thousands of runners. So you're not going to start right
No.
when the gun goes off.
Right.
So I wasn't sure if I had actually made it. And then my client like immediately texted me. She was like, "Oh my God, 2:59:56, you did it, sub 3." And then I just started like breaking down crying. I
Unreal.
was like, I can't believe I just did it. Like, so yeah, it was a very emotional day, a good emotional day, but definitely lots of emotions.
That would be my answer. If I was in your position, I think I would just start crying. I think I would sit
Yeah.
down and just start crying.
Yeah. It's like you're crying of happiness, a little bit of pain.
It's a lot. It's like you said, it's a very emotional day in
Yeah,
many different
and I think
capacities.
too, you put like 4 months of training into
Yeah.
one day. That's the thing about, marathons and running and, races like 5Ks and 10Ks. Obviously, those are super hard and, you put a lot of work into those. But, a marathon build, that's like 4 months of
Yeah.
you dedicating your life to one day. And, the day can either go great, it can go terribly. So, when you have a great day, it means so much more. And it's like, wow, all of my hard work paid off for this one day.
Yeah, it's probably very different, I guess, growing up from the experiences that I and you had playing team sports where you have a season, it's even
Yeah.
in college, you're working your butt off, but you have X amount of games in a season and X amount of times to redeem yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's very different. I think too, like, running is so individual. I mean, it's a team sport in many ways, but it's not like basketball or softball where it's like there's a whole team out there. Running, it's you. It's literally all you. So
Yeah. So how do you train? Because I remember back when I started following you, like one of the first things I noticed that was really cool was that you ran long distances, but you also supplemented that with weightlifting, where a lot of the people that I know that run don't do, like running is just their choice and that's all they do. How do you train like with resistance training to enhance like your running performance?
Yeah. So, I mean, hybrid training is always something that I've been super passionate about. And I mean, even now, like I'm training for Boston now, and, lifting is a huge part of it. I think it's something that, you see so many distance runners get injured. And I mean, I, knock on wood, have
Yeah.
literally not been injured ever. I mean, I've had like minor aches and
Right.
pains, but nothing that has like taken me out. And I really do credit that to lifting, to strength training. But yeah, I mean, the lifts that I do, they're running specific, but obviously you have like your compound lifts and then a lot of like unilateral exercises because with running, you likely have some sort of, your form isn't perfect. You probably have
Right.
some muscle imbalances going on.
Right.
So, very running specific work, just to kind of, help with like your hip flexors, your glutes and everything. Because running, is a lot in your glutes, it's in your core, it's your quads, it's everything. So the weightlifting really, really does help with that.
Yeah. Do you do any sort of like mobility work or yoga and stuff? Because I know running can really tighten up, like you said, your hip flexors, your glutes, your hamstrings.
Yeah, I've never really been like a yoga girl.
Okay. I mean, you do balance a lot. I don't know how much more types of exercise you can throw in there.
I mean, I do try to stretch. I definitely do. I always stretch before I run, and I always run before I lift, which I do think helps. So it's like, when I go into my lift, I'm already very much stretched out. And in some ways, it's like I feel like the lift kind of helps with the run, almost stretch out your muscles a little bit.
Yeah.
But then going into the lift itself, you're already much looser just because, you stretched and then you ran, and now you're going into your lift. So I do try to stretch before. I'm not always the best at stretching after, but I do try. And I do foam
That's all
roll.
of us.
So yeah.
That's all of us. We try. We're not the best.
We're just out here trying.
I know. Listen, I'll warm up before any workout. I love doing yoga, but I'll definitely make sure I warm up. But when I'm done, I'm going home. I'm
I
not,
know. I'm like, I'm hungry. It's time to eat.
I have like a limited time of window and it's just enough time for me to get in my car and drive home before I start to get like hangry. Time
Yes.
for stretching. That's my excuse.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah. So do you kind of because I'm like not very familiar with running for like as a sport. I ran in high school, but I was not good, didn't take it seriously, and probably didn't have the best coaching. How would your diet kind of compare when you're training for a marathon to like someone like me who's into bodybuilding and stuff? Like, do you follow the same sorts of
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd say I probably eat a very similar diet to you in terms of, trying to keep my protein high. I don't track, but I loosely track protein just to make sure that, I'm hitting my protein goal. I would say the biggest difference probably between you and me though is that I eat a ton of carbs. So like, I think just with running, I mean, for me personally, I love having a high carb meal before I run. I love carbs after I run. I just feel like when you run more, your body naturally craves a ton of carbs. So I definitely have a very, very high carb diet. But I mean, it's what works, and it's what helps me perform my best. And, even before races, you start to carb load. And so I'd say, the biggest difference is probably just the amount of carbs that I'm eating.
yeah, okay. That makes sense. What was I gonna ask next? I just lost my train of thought.
Mm.
Oh, so I get a lot of comments from girls. I remember one time I was hearing a conversation between two of my friends and just people just thinking they know everything that they need to know. And this one girl was like, I really want to build my glutes, but I love like running for my cardio. And my other friend was like, don't run. Like, don't run for your cardio. You like, if you want to build your glutes, you cannot run. And I feel like, yes, there's a balance between cardio and what you're eating and weight training if your goal is to build your glutes. But what is your opinion on that statement and kind of balancing the two?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, obviously, it's like you said, there's a balance. I mean, if you just only ran, and you're not building muscle and you're not eating enough and you're not recovering, like, yeah, you're probably not going to grow your glutes. Um, but I think, it all kind of comes down to like what your goals are. I think at one point, like before I really started running, I was super into lifting. I was always kind of more into lifting before I really got into running.
Right.
And I think just one thing that I really like about running is it's really just kind of changed my perspective on, lifting and just myself and like my body. It's like I don't go to the gym to try to grow my glutes. Like for me, it's like I want to run my fastest marathon and I'm going to train like an athlete. I'm going to run to help my training. I'm going to lift to help my training. And I really don't care about having a snatched waist and big glutes. But I mean, everyone's different, right? And that's totally fine. I just think that, training for performance is much more rewarding for me. But I mean, yeah, to answer your question, I'd say, if you're completely outrunning yourself and then you're not building muscle and you're not recovering, then yeah, you're probably not going to grow your glutes. But that's not to say that if you run, you can't grow your glutes. That's not true at all.
I think what you said points it out perfectly is you a marathon runner. You are going to the gym and you're weightlifting and people see that, but you're weightlifting in a way that's going to enhance your performance. I think a lot of people just see like, oh, well, she's a marathon runner and she's really thin, and he's a marathon runner and he's really thin, not realizing like, not that you're doing it on purpose, like to be thin, but it's like you're training and you're eating in a way intentionally that you're not focusing on building your glutes, you know?
Yeah.
So you
I'm
can't,
focusing on running my fastest race.
right. Yeah. I think people see that and they're like, oh, marathon runners, they're naturally lean. I cannot run. If I run, everything's going to go away. And that's a huge misconception, especially with sprints. Sprints is mostly
Oh
like
yeah.
power muscles, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if you see some of those track athletes, like they're built.
Yeah. Yeah. That
um,
always surprised me when I ran like hurdles, short distance in high school, and my coach wouldn't let me pick up a weight. Like he was like yeah, this stuck with me. Like my junior or senior year of high school, he was like, your goal is to run your fastest time. And the more that you weigh, like the more it's gonna hold you back and hold you down. So you cannot like be weightlifting during the season. And now that I'm older and wiser, I'm like, that,
that's
especially
like
for
really messed
sprints,
up.
makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I
Yeah.
mean, also having more muscle is not necessarily going to slow you down. If anything, it would make you faster.
I'm like, if my quads had the strength back then and they did like they do
Right.
now, I'm sure I would have been a few seconds faster.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I think there's a huge misconception like with running that like, oh, if you're lighter, you're gonna be faster. And it's just not true. Like if you're strong and you have endurance, that will help you be faster.
Yeah, the
So
endurance part is what gets me. It like, and I'm sure you know this feeling, being from New Hampshire, when it's like cold outside, when you're running and it just burns you. Like, you know what I'm talking about? That is to me one of like the worst feelings.
like kind of burning like your lungs.
Yes. Like I'm like, my legs, fine. But every time I breathe in, it's just that cold, like stinging air.
Yeah, I feel like I used to be like that, like when I started running, but honestly, I really haven't felt that way in years. Like even when like I think just like once you keep running in those temperatures, like it's really not bad. I mean, I trained for Boston 2023 all in New Hampshire and in like snowstorms and 20-degree weather, like it was crazy, but I don't know. I think like once you start to train in it for a while, like I would never get that anymore.
That gives me a shred of hope, honestly.
Yeah, no, seriously, just stay consistent with it. I'm sure it will get better.
I ran a 5K once. I don't like what I would do a 5K again. Like I wouldn't be against that. Any farther than that starts to scare me a
Do a
little.
5K. Do a
I
5K.
also didn't train for it at all. I went into this thing not knowing like I knew how to run. Like I knew how to move my feet. I had played sports my whole life. My friends were I did it with my two friends. They're like running on the treadmill inside. They're like getting ready for this thing. And I was like, I can't be bothered. Like I'm just gonna go into it. And it was the first mile and a half was great. The last like whatever, I was like, I don't love this, but I need to keep going because I need it to be over.
No, I mean 5Ks and like 10Ks, those are hard. I honestly avoid them because
Yeah.
in my like those hurt because 5Ks are so fast.
Right.
Like where a marathon, like you can go at a slower pace, but a 5K, oh my God. And I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, if you don't run a marathon, like you're not a runner. Like that's just not true at all. In my opinion, I'd rather run a marathon than like a 5K or
I
10K.
could not. I could not. But you're very right. And I'm just remembering back to my track days. It was like they would say the 800 was like the hardest race because
Yes.
the way that it's paced. So have you, I'm going to assume the answer is yes, but have you ran like 5 and 10 Ks before?
Yeah. So when I was in college, that was my event. I was the 5K.
Oh my
But
God,
I
that
did,
was your event. Oh,
yeah. And it
I'm
was
like sitting
indoor
here
too. So it
complaining.
was 25 laps.
Oh, I'm sitting here complaining about the one 5K I did.
No, I mean but like it's so true. Like in track, it was my first season. So my coach literally had me do like every single event. I did
Yeah.
the 5K, I did the mile, I did the 800 by far. I did the 400. 800 was the worst. Like I thought I was gonna pass out.
How do you
It's
pace
just it's
yourself
like
though?
that distance where you're basically sprinting, but you're sprinting for half a mile, where like at least with the 5K, you can pace yourself a little bit more. And the 400 is like a full out sprint, but it's only one lap. The 800 is just like that middle distance where it's terrible the whole
It's,
time.
yeah. I've never run one. I heard many of people talk about how much they hate it, and I was like,
Oh,
I'm
it's terrible.
good hopping over little hurdles all day where I am. So how do you pace yourself? Like, because you said and it is different. How do you pace yourself for a 5K versus like pacing yourself for a mile? Like if you're, or not a mile, a marathon, like if you're setting up, like what do you set your boundaries for and like your goals?
So I mean, I think it kind of comes down to like what your goal time is. So like for CIM, California International Marathon, my goal was a 255, was to go sub 255, and that was a 640 mile. Where like with a 5K, I mean, I have not ran a 5K since college.
Nice.
Um, but obviously like that would be like a sub 6 minute pace would be like my goal mile. So that's kind of how you would break that down, I guess. Just kind of think about like, okay, well, what's my goal
Mhm.
pace? And then
Okay.
what do my splits need to be?
Okay. That like blows my mind. Like I said, my friend ran the marathon. We were waiting for her. I think we were at mile 8 or something, which I was like is sickening to me because I have never even ran 8 miles. I don't even think I've walked 8 miles consecutively. I don't know. But they were like, oh, she's doing really well. She's at like a 7:10 split pace. I'm like, I don't think I've ever ran a mile. That's like sub 9 at all. And you
I
know what?
mean, it's fine.
I'm fine with it. For so long, I used to like on the chances that I did run, I'd post it like my little Apple Watch thing, and I would purposely leave out like the time or like the split time because I was so scared of people like coming into my DMs and being like,
God, they
oh my God.
wouldn't.
I know.
They
Now I'm like,
wouldn't.
you know what? I declare myself as not a runner. This is not my specialty. When I want to do it, you guys are going to see my 12-minute pace.
I mean, you'd be surprised though, like really fast marathoners, like their easy pace is literally a 12-minute pace.
Wow. Okay, that makes me feel better. I,
Yeah.
my goal is like, I think I just need to build my endurance because I'm genuinely scared that if I had to run for my life, like, I would not do well. Like when my adrenaline ran out, like would, I would be dead.
You should do it. And I mean, I think like with running too, just set a goal to run like X amount of minutes a couple times a week. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to go out and run 5 miles or I need to go out and run 3 miles. Like, you don't need to put it based on miles. Like when I started running, it was literally based on time. I'd be like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm going to try to run for 15 minutes today.
Okay.
I'm going to try to run for 20 minutes. And like, I think too, why people can't stick to it is like, they're like, okay, I'm going to go run for 20 minutes and they like book it for 20
Yeah,
minutes. Right.
no.
And it's like, just run a sustainable pace for you. Um, and if you do that, you'll build up your aerobic base. I think that's what a lot of people do wrong is that they don't actually like do their easy runs easy. They're just trying to like run way too fast. Like, my easy pace is like around an 8-minute mile for, like my easy days. And then my marathon pace is a 6:40 pace, right? So it's like, you have to keep your easy days easy and then keep your hard days hard.
Yeah.
Um, that's what helps you. That's what builds up your aerobic base, not just like killing yourself every single time you try to go out for a run.
Right.
So
And that's like, I like that you brought that up because I talked about that a little bit on the episode, on my podcast episode that came out today, like when we're recording this. And I was talking about having like quote unquote bad workouts, and not every workout is like, it's not realistic or attainable in a gym setting, let's say, to hit a PR every workout. You're not
mhm.
going to be like unbearably sore after every workout, but you're not supposed to be. Otherwise, your
No,
body's never going to
exactly.
recover.
Exactly.
It's
I mean,
just,
it's the same thing with running. It really
yeah,
is. I mean, if anything, you're, like with running, like with my schedule, I have like a speed workout every single week. If I take my easy runs way too hard, I'm going to have a terrible speed workout.
right.
So like for me, like I keep my easy runs easy so that on Wednesday, on my speed day, like I'm ready to go. My body's recovered. Like your easy runs have a purpose. You're not supposed to die.
Yeah, no.
You're supposed to keep it easy. You're just building your aerobic base, and then on your speed day, you'll go hard and you'll try to hit your paces or whatnot.
Yeah, it's definitely a mental barrier, especially for people like us who are competitive and like
Yeah,
constantly trying to outdo yourself. It's like, all right, this will be better in the long run if you take the easy day, take the
right.
rest, like take a reset week, and
Mhm.
instead of being go, 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 which is something that I kind of struggle with.
No, I get that. I was the same way, especially like when I started running. I definitely ran like all my easy days way too hard. And you just don't progress as fast.
So do you, because I know you mentioned you do coaching and stuff, when you're training for right now, like let's say you're training for, because you're training for the Boston Marathon right now, are you coached by someone or are you creating your own training plan?
So I've actually always created all of my own training plans
Wow.
up until now. So
Okay.
I literally just got a coach. And so he's actually like the official coach for BPN, which
Okay.
I'm an athlete for BPN. So it was just kind of like the right decision. I feel like it really came at a great time. And I was even thinking about it before CIM, before I even met my coach now. His name is Jeff Cunningham. He's amazing. He literally coaches Olympic qualifiers. Like he is great. But I even remember while I was training for CIM, I feel like I was getting to the point where I was starting to doubt myself a little bit, just because my goals were pretty lofty.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's nice to just have a coach tell you what to do
Yeah.
rather than, second guess yourself. I mean, obviously, me coaching myself has clearly worked to this
Yeah.
point. Um,
Let's see what you could do with somebody else, like over your shoulder.
right. And I think, just having someone else,
Yeah.
just having another head, it's great. And I think just with my future goals, it just felt like the right decision at this point to just, like I'm really going for some big goals now. And I think just having someone else who you can really just trust and just another head, I think it's great. So he is coaching me through Boston.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to see what he can do with you. I used to think like back when I was a baby beginner, I'm like, oh, what type of coach? Like, why should I sign up for your personal training service or whatever when you're coached by someone else? And then as I've matured and grown, I realized, you spend so much effort putting together other people's plans, checking on other people, like making sure that they're sticking, their guidelines that sometimes like you just need to have somebody else like with expertise tell like you need to give
Absolutely.
yourself a break, and we can always stand to learn something.
Exactly. I mean, coaches need coaches, and the best coaches had coaches before that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just because you're a coach, that doesn't mean, oh, I'm the best
Yeah.
and I can't ever learn more because my methods are the only methods that work.
Yeah.
And I mean, even just having him, he's really opened my eyes up to already just new things that, I didn't necessarily prioritize before. So it's just so great getting another head. And, I love talking to other runners. I'm sure you love talking to other lifters,
Yeah.
just getting ideas from them and seeing the way that someone else does something. Which, doesn't make you any less of a coach. It just, if anything, you're just learning so much
Yeah.
more.
I think it's nice when you have somebody to hold you accountable and to like push you as well, because like
100%.
you said, with the self-doubt that comes in, it's very easy to, slow down, or like in my case, like not do that extra rep because you're unsure. And when you have somebody who you have to like report back to, or somebody over your
Yeah.
shoulder, we can all stand to use somebody like that, no matter if you've never like ran before or you're the fastest person in the world, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, sometimes I think just a coach too is just someone that, you believe really trusts you. And like that in itself is so helpful, just, doing something because that someone trusts that you can do that. Just that mental side, I think is so big.
Yeah. So you seem like a very athletic person, obviously, and you train for athleticism and stuff. Down the line, like maybe, I don't know, maybe like a retired goal or something like that. Would you ever do like a triathlon instead of just marathons?
Yeah, I mean, people always ask me, like, oh, when are you,
Really?
yeah, they're like, when are you gonna do a triathlon? Okay, well, number one, I literally am terrible at swimming.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so there's that. I
Yeah,
just like don't really swim. I think
I don't
I
either.
just don't really have a huge interest in doing that. It's not that I don't like biking or swimming. I love running, and
Right.
I still have so many goals with running that I want to hit down the line. So I think by, you can either go full in on, your running goal,
Yeah.
or you can dabble into something else. And I mean, maybe like when I'm older, like once I kind of just retire from like doing the marathon, I think it could definitely be something that I would get into. But right now, definitely not.
You know what? I like that answer. I like that answer because it's very easy to have people be like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You'd be so good at doing this when you don't necessarily want to. And
Right.
I'm very bad at like, or I've gotten better at not putting an egg in a million baskets. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, it's not to say that like I couldn't be good at the triathlon. It's just it's
it's not
not
your
like my
boy.
primary focus right now, and it's not what I want it to be.
It
So
would take away from your primary focus to
it
start.
would, exactly. It would take away from marathon training. So I'm not gonna do
Yeah, maybe one day. I love that answer. Um,
it.
so what's besides the Boston Marathon, what's kind of new or on the horizon for you for exponential athletics? Like anything exciting coming
Yeah.
up?
Oh my God. 2024 is gonna be a
Big
huge
year.
year.
Nice.
So in February, actually, I am running the Mesa Half Marathon in Mesa, Arizona.
Oh,
So that
fun.
will kind of be like a build up to
Right,
Boston,
right.
just like a nice tune-up race. I'll also be running the Boulderthon Half Marathon, which is in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado,
Have you ran up there
in
before?
September. Yeah, I actually ran Boulderthon last October.
Yeah.
So fun. Oh my God, Boulder is beautiful.
Art?
Have you been?
No, I haven't been. I'm
Ugh.
just wondering how you run with that elevation difference.
Oh yeah, it was hard.
Were
It
you
was rough.
slower that race?
So I mean, I adjusted my pace based on the elevation. So like I was trying to run like a 6:45 mile versus like my regular half marathon time would probably be around a 6:30 mile.
Okay.
And I did end up running, I ran like a 1:28, which came out to like a 6:44 mile. So it wasn't like a PR for me. My half marathon PR was like a 1:27. Um, but I mean, incredible race. It was
Yeah.
just so awesome. But yeah, like you could feel it by mile like 9 or 10. I was like, oh my God, this can't breathe.
Yeah. I've
But
never
I
been.
will say it was nice coming from Florida because I mean, at the time, Florida's just so hot and humid that like when I got there, I was like, oh my God, this is a breath of fresh air because there's no humidity in Colorado. It's a dry heat. So that like initially when the race started, it was like 40 degrees. Oh my God, I was flying. I was like, I feel
Oh yeah.
great. Not
Yeah.
affected by the altitude at all. But I mean, I definitely started to feel it towards the end, but you
I
just gotta
love
step
the air out. I've never been outside in Colorado. I've literally only landed in Denver and got back on a plane. But I
Oh,
went to
okay.
Arizona for the first time in October, and I could just breathe. It was
Yeah, Arizona's the
I
same way.
could
It's a
breathe.
dry heat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so different. It's so interesting. And I think it's funny too, because like what I didn't realize too is like where you're from too, the humidity makes the cold feel colder, which I
Yeah.
didn't ever realize.
The hot
And
feel
like the
hotter.
dry heat, like 30 degrees in Colorado does not feel like 30 degrees where you are.
Yeah.
So it's so different. It's interesting.
Yeah. So you have a lot of things
Yes. And then,
Right.
and then we're also going to be hosting run clubs this year for Exponential Athletics. So we'll be hosting one in Mesa when I go down for the race. And then actually right after Mesa, I'm actually going to Boulder, Colorado. We're hosting a exponential run club there. And then we have plans to kind of travel around the US this year.
Wow, that is so fun. Traveling
Yeah.
is like my favorite thing. I hope you have great turnouts. If I was into running, then I would be there, but I don't like to run yet.
Hey, if we're in your
Maybe.
area, I will let you know.
Okay, if you're in my area, force me to get off my butt and run a little
I
something.
mean, they're little group runs, like they're little
Yeah.
shakeout runs. It's literally like 3 miles, super relaxed paced, and 2 to 3 miles.
All right, I could do it.
Easy pace, like, and plus I'm telling you, like when you run with people, when you're running these groups, like the time flies and it's so fun. And we'll be like partnered with other brands and shops, so it's just going to be so much
Awesome.
fun.
I'm excited for you. This sounds like you, I mean, I've been following you for a while and you've literally just been going up and up and up and up. And I
Aw,
love everything. And you're like, I just love everything you stand for. It's like you have such a
thank
perfect
you.
mix of athleticism, like femininity, like you're doing everything by yourself. It's been so awesome to watch you.
Thank you. You're killing it as well.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm going through what you've already surpassed my quarter life crisis right now, but I will figure it out.
Are
And
you?
yeah, it's just the same. Like I'm doing my job right now, but I don't think that that's what I want to do forever. Like I think like I'm
Are
more
you are you like full-time personal training?
no. So I work in marketing full time, and I think that
Okay.
like that's kind of the route I want to go to. It's just, I mean, you know how it is. It's a little bit scary when you're
Oh
like,
my God.
okay,
Terrifying.
I'm gonna break from the safe path that I worked my whole life to go down. But I just know like if I could spend 8 hours a day every day in a gym, fine. Like let me be. I'll have a great time.
Right. I think too, like, if you want something, you just have to go full in on it because right now, you're putting all this time into your marketing job, but think about if you put those hours into creating something that's completely yours, you'd be shocked at just how much you could accomplish and get done.
Yeah, that's why it's great that I follow people like you too, where I'm like, okay, she did it. I can do it. Like it's
You
feasible
can.
to do it.
You absolutely can, girl. First, you got to move to LA.
I know. I know. First, I gotta move to LA, and then you have to bring your run club to LA and make me go
Oh my
outside.
God. We definitely will. LA would be a great spot for a run club.
Yeah, it would. All right, I'm part one, you're part two of that plan. We'll
Yeah.
make
So once you move, let me know and then we'll come down.
it. That's your perfect plan. I don't want to keep you for too much longer. Do you want to tell everyone where they can follow you on social media and Exponential Athletics on social media?
Yes. So my social media, I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I'm also on YouTube. They're all Caitlyn Miller _fit. And our exponential IG page is exponential_athletics. And exponential is spelled EXPNTL.
Nice.
But yes,
And
that is
Caitlin, CAI.
yeah, CAITLYN with a Y.
Yep. There you go. That's one of those names that it's like it could be this, it could be that.
Oh my God. People spell it wrong all the time.
Like at least you know it's Caitlin.
Yeah, that's true. At least they like all say it right.
Well, that would be a hard one to mess up. That's
Yeah,
be surprised. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course.